Welcome to International Royals TV. On this channel, you will find great content, both old and new, of royal families around the world. So subscribe so you won't miss out on the next upload. Queen Elizabeth II Life History, and this is session number 10, and this is called Turbulent Years. Source Wikipedia. In the wake of coalition victory in the Gulf War, Elizabeth became the first British monarch to address a joint meeting of the United States Congress in May 1991. On 24th November 1992, in a speech to mark the Ruby Jubilee of her accession, Elizabeth called 1992 her Annus Horribilis, a Latin phrase for meaning horrible year. Republican feeling in Britain had risen because of press estimates of Elizabeth's private wealth contradicted by the palace, and reports of affairs and strange marriages among her extended family. In March, her second son, Prince Andrew, separated from his wife, Sarah. Her daughter, Princess Anne, divorced Captain Mark Phillips in April. Angry demonstrators in Dresden threw eggs at Elizabeth during a state visit to Germany in October, and a large fire broke out at Windsor Castle, one of her official residences, in November. The monarchy came under increased criticism and public scrutiny. In an unusually personal speech, Elizabeth said that any institution must expect criticism, but suggested it might be done with a touch of humour, gentleness and understanding. 2 days later, John Major announced plans to reform the royal finances drawn up the previous year, including Elizabeth paying income tax from 1993 onwards and a reduction in the civil list. In December, Prince Charles and his wife Diana formally separated. At the end of the year, Elizabeth sued the Sun newspaper for breach of copyright when it published the text of her annual Christmas message 2 days before it was broadcast. The newspaper was forced to pay her legal fees and donated $200,000 to charity. Elizabeth's solicitors had taken successful action against the Sun 5 years earlier for breach of copyright after it published a photograph of her daughter-in-law, the Duchess of York, and her granddaughter, Princess Beatrice. In January 1994, Elizabeth broke the scaphoid bone in her left wrist as the horse she was riding at Sandringham tripped and fell. In October 1994, she became the first reigning British monarch to set foot on Russian soil. In October 1995, Elizabeth was tricked into a hoax call by Montreal radio host Pierre Brassard, impersonating Canadian Prime Minister Jean Chrétien. Elizabeth, who believed that she was speaking to Jean, said she supported Canadian unity and would try to influence Quebec's referendum on proposals to break away from Canada. In the year that followed, public relations on the state of Charles and Diana's marriage continued. In consultation with her husband and John Major, as well as the Archbishop of Canterbury, George Carey, and her private secretary, Robert Fellows, Elizabeth wrote to Charles and Diana at the end of December 1995, suggesting that a divorce would be advisable. In August 1997, a year after the divorce, Diana was killed in a car crash in Paris. Elizabeth was on holiday with her extended family at Balmoral. Diana's two sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, wanted to attend church, so Elizabeth and Philip took them that morning. Afterwards, for 5 days, the royal couple shielded their grandsons from the intense press interest by keeping them at Balmoral, where they could grieve in private. But the royal family's silence and seclusion, and the failure to fly a flag at half-mast over Buckingham Palace, caused public dismay. Pressured by the hostile reaction, Elizabeth agreed to return to London and to address the nation in a live television broadcast on 5th of September, the day before Diana's funeral. In the broadcast, she expressed admiration for Diana and her feelings as a grandmother for the two princes. As a result, much of the public hostility evaporated. In October 1997, Elizabeth and Philip made a state visit to India, which included a controversial visit to the site of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre to pay her respects. Protesters chanted, "Kill her, Queen, go back." And there were demands for her to apologise for the action of British troops 78 years earlier. At the memorial in the park, she and Philip laid a wreath and stood for a 30-second moment of silence. As a result, most of the fury among the public softened and the protests were called off. That November, the royal couple held a reception at Banqueting House to mark their golden wedding anniversary. Elizabeth made a speech and praised Philip for his role as consort, referring to him as "my strength and stay." In 1999, as part of the process of devolution in the United Kingdom, Elizabeth formally opened newly established legislatures for Wales and Scotland, the National Assembly for Wales at Cardiff in May, and the Scottish Parliament at Edinburgh in July. So that brings us to the end of session number 10. Next, we will be discussing dawn of the new millennium. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for your time. And don't forget to thumbs up this video. Thank you so much for being here. Please check out the playlist called Queen Elizabeth II's Life History for more episodes. You can catch up in there, and it will also be on the community tab. Thank you so much. Bye guys. See you on the next episode. Queen Elizabeth II Life History.